Your mind is limitless. The possibilities are endless. Awaken Your Mind Magic shows you how you can dream limitlessly and live your life on a new level. Susan Kathleen speaks with ordinary people who are living extraordinary lives using the power of their mind. Abundance, prosperity, and success. There are no limits to what you can dream. Join Susan Kathleen on a journey into your dreams, making a difference and living life on your own terms. This is Awaken Your Mind Magic.
Hello everyone, I have the most amazing guest today, Rob Mokaraka. He is an actor, a playwright, a writer, and a healer of people. He's been down in the depths of the darkest of the darkest. He's been suicidal, and he's turned his life around after his awakening when he realized that he was here on this earth to help people who've been through depression and suicide. Welcome, Rob, and thank you so much for taking the time to be on my show, Awaken Your Mind Magic.
Oh, kia ora, Susan. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really grateful, so kia ora to you.
Well, Rob, we both know that life throws its curveballs. We've actually done a recording of an hour and it got lost in translation. And as the true actor, wonderful thespian, and great friend that you are, you come right back, given me time on the day after Christmas, and we are re-recording this. And clearly, universe has things in store for us. We are meant to be doing this one at this time right now.
Yeah,
it means that we're totally limitless.
We're ready. We're even.
Yeah, go.
No, we're even more ready now than we were before. We just didn't know it.
We certainly are. Oh, Rob, bless you. Please share with me, Rob, your incredible story where you came from being a man of distinction, doing really well in the filming industry, to where you actually went down into a deep dive of depression and had the police out, or the cops as you call them, ready to shoot, and you did it so well. Everyone, I want you to know that Rob has this fantastic, and I can only call it a show. It is not just a transformational talk. It is a show, and it's called Shot Bro, and it's all revolved around Rob's awakening and ability to help thousands of people all over the world. Let us know more, Rob.
Oh, kia ora, Susan. Yeah, I'm just grateful to be alive. And in 2009 in particular, after touring to London at the Soho Theatre, with my theatre show that I was a co-writer and co-actor of, I finally exploded a month later in 2009 in Auckland, Point Chevalier. Massive public mental breakdown, and I provoked the police to shoot me dead because I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. Unresolved trauma, when I didn't know what it was though. So yeah, after being shot in the chest, provoking the police, by the way, I provoked the police to shoot me, and they did. They shot me at close range in the chest, and I'm very, very blessed to still be alive and to help others who have been in mental distress or suicidal ideation and let them know that there is a positive way out, and they deserve as much love and help as often as they need. So, yep, from the ashes, hope rises, Susan. And thanks to friends and family and therapists and aroha in the world, love, I'm able to tell my story 7 years after it happened.
Rob, I met you at the beginning of this year in January with my dear friend Wayne Forrest, who
Yes,
is also he's a fellow life mastery consultant, where we both trained together. And he'd been invited as one of your guest speakers as a dream builder, helping people to live their dream into reality. And this is exactly what you are doing for thousands of people and what you've done for yourself. Explain how you came about creating Shot Bro and what led you into it. I do know that at the time you were in London, you were
yeah.
a very successful actor, and you still are, of course. Tell us how you reached this extreme depression to the extent of knowing as a Maori man, you could provoke the police enough into being shot because you knew for sure that that one bullet would get you and you would die.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to unpack it. So I'm supposed to be dead 10 years ago. So I'm no, more than lucky, I'm very blessed to be alive, to be able to tell my story. And as I've been telling my story about having a mental breakdown and being shot by the police, provoking them, I've unpacked my own trauma thanks to therapy, but also those therapy tools came into use when I started to physicalize, verbalize my story. So yeah, my stuff is a lot of unresolved trauma, which I didn't know I had.
Mm.
Um, and I was a year into presenting and performing my story around the country when I started seeing like a doorway, and every time I was talking to somebody, but there was no door there. It was all in my mind. And the closer I metaphorically walked towards this door, the more fear I started to feel that would arise
Mm.
within me. And I went, oh, something's not right. I'm not feeling good. I rang a couple of friends, or a few friends, and one of them said, maybe one of the doors from your past has opened. And I thought, geez, maybe it has. So what it was is that one of the memories I had was I had been molested at a very young age, and my mind was compartmentalizing it and saying that I was holding those memories for someone else. So I had,
Yeah.
yeah, so I had to go see a shrink, thanks to a mentor and a friend, Mike King, who shouted me his therapist at the time and said, maybe you just need to unpack something, which I didn't know what it was at that point in time. But after I went and saw the therapist, not that he solved my problems, but it was a safe place for me to air what I was scared of and what was coming up. And so that was opened by by doing my own show, my own storytelling, and it really helped me. It really helped me slowly acknowledge and process that. Now, in regards to me being suicidal on this particular day, I had this building for a long time. I had emotional triggers I was unaware of, and as a Maori male and having been triggered emotionally from another emotional breakup at that point in time, I thought, I know who will shoot me dead. I know who can kill me, the police. Because historically, I had seen the police shoot Maori males or Maori on the news growing up, right or wrong. So I thought, I'm a Maori male. I'll just call the police and act crazy and they'll shoot me dead. So yes, I called the police and said that there's a crazy guy who was armed in my house, and I described myself while I was in the vortex of this, which I'm calling a storm. I was calling and I still do, I call my suicidal ideation at the time the storm, I'm in a storm of depression, storm of unresolved trauma. And yeah, wow, I called them, I provoked them, and it worked. Luckily, I'm not dead. Shot me in the chest at close range with a Glock 9mm bullet. And after multiple surgeries, after multiple court cases, and a lot of aroha and love and compassion from friends and family and strangers, I was able to stabilize and slowly create this body of work, which is the Shop Bro Confessions of a Depressed Bullet experience.
That's a really incredible title. And I've seen you enact this. And what impresses me is from being this big, good looking Maori man doing the haka, performing there on stage with your story, and then suddenly this turnabout, and you literally shrink into this small child, and you put this helmet on with aluminium foil on top of it. It looks like a World War II helmet.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was,
yep.
and or is, and then what you do is you diminish into this little boy sucking your thumb, and the voice even becomes a child's voice, and you start to enact that poor little lost child that you have lived with all this time until you had the awakening of why you were suicidal. Explain that more to the audience, please, Rob, how you came about having the courage to speak about the abuse that you'd encountered as a child.
Well, the character is called Bullet, Bulihana, and it's my hurt little boy. But the beauty about that character, well, which is little Rob, is he comes with so much innocence and hope. There's just hope and joy. And he's just articulating it very plainly in how an 8-year-old would about his genealogy, where he's from, and the depression in his family. So I don't really, the character doesn't say that he's been hurt, but you get to hear that through my wānanga or my forum afterwards. And so also I'd grown up around sporadic violence around alcohol with
Yeah,
family gatherings. So, and I thought that was normal. I thought all families would have one from laughter to punch ups. I thought that was everybody. So growing up, you sort of got used to a level of violence, and
yeah,
so I didn't know this. So it's all impacted along my journey. And so on stage, when you see Bulihana, who's 8, he's just full of joy and full of warmth, and he's articulating with his innocent heart and voice just the facts. And it's when you hear a kid tell you the facts, it has so much more depth and resonance that you really listen because you hear a
and
little child. Yeah, that's
you like you say, when you hear little Rob,
yeah,
the absolute pure innocence of that child that you enact, who you know is your inner child and was the child you were, um, really gets to the core of your story and how you came about to becoming the big Rob, the big strong Rob, the articulate, amazing man that you are, and where you were as well before you decided that you wanted to end your life. Tell us more, Rob, about your acting career and where you were and how it got you to the state of depression, to wanting to be ended with this life on this earth at this time.
yeah. Well, I took up acting because I wanted to be able to express myself, all my emotions, all my thoughts, without being arrested. and to get
Oh,
paid.
that was a good move.
Well, yes and no, yes and no. Um, um, but everyone's looking for an outlet, and I suppose
Mm,
the arts was an outlet. And I was drawing on hidden hurts in my past, and but nobody knew that. So I was drawing on those traumas that I wasn't fully aware of. By the way, it was just hurt stuff. And then I'm becoming this great actor who could portray these thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And people go, "Wow, great acting," but I wasn't taking care of myself mentally, and of the hurt I was unpacking. I wasn't really unpacking it. I was just utilizing the hurt for my work. So that's a little bit crazy, and I know actors do that. Actors and actresses do that at times. So now I'm all about making sure you're mentally you're mentally safe in your environment. Your work environment is safe for you to go into these dark places, to portray these characters, and to come out safely. So yeah, after so obviously I joined the arts, but I just didn't know what I had, which was undiagnosed depression or unresolved trauma most of my life. So in 2009, 1 month before I provoked the police to shoot me dead, I was in London with a show I co-wrote and co-acted in called Strange Resting Places with my Italian friend Paolo Rotondo. Now,
mhm,
Paolo and I, we co-wrote it. We're in London with our other friend Marco Pohatu, another amazing human being who's also an actor, musician. And
mhm,
I was breaking down in London while we're at the height of our success. And I wasn't telling anybody. I was too scared to tell my closest friends because I wasn't sure what was going to come out of my mouth, and also I was scared because I didn't know how to articulate that I was swirling in a storm of suicidal ideation, depression. So during that time in London, we received so many accolades. Um, I thought everybody was telling me lies. I thought they were all shit. Excuse my language. I thought every accolade that was gifted to us, I would look at their face and in my mind I would think, what a liar. You know that I'm all shit. You know that I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough for this. And this voice
mm.
just kept going around and round, and I never told anybody. I should have,
Yeah,
but it did.
absolutely. I mean, that was just your inner critic telling you that, and because you are incredible.
Oh, thank you
So
very much, my friend.
yeah, you are. You're a great actor and an incredible person with much aroha as well. And of course, you taught me that word, and I love it. And we will go on to talking about that later on. Please continue your story of where you were in London with your show and how you got there to the depression, the
Yeah,
realization.
yeah. I was in London. I was also in a relationship back home in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which wasn't very healthy, and it was nobody's fault. It was just the conditions we were in, mental conditions. So we both didn't know, and we're triggering each other. And
Mm,
so, uh, like I said, on the outside, it looked like I was having a very successful time, but I was mentally, physically, spiritually, financially breaking down, and I just didn't know how to reach out for help. I had no idea. I just felt shame, guilt, and failure swirl around my thoughts. And so by the time we got back to Aotearoa, New Zealand, a month later, after another massive argument, I thought I need to get out of this crazy relationship. So I came up with another crazy thought, and I went and slept with another woman. I come back to the current partner, and she said, "Did you sleep with another woman?" I said, "Yes, I did." Thinking,
mm,
great, this is going to be all over. I'm such a piece of shit. She'll know that I'm a piece of shit, and we can just end it. But no, she hung in there, but actually perpetuated even more darkness from her own past and perpetuated my own darkness, which was swirling around me like a storm. And then finally, she exploded and came around to my house one day. And fair enough, by the way. And she was so upset that I'd slept with another woman, broken her trust,
mm,
broken our relationship. She smashed up my room, started smashing everything up. started punching me, and I wasn't reacting. I was just trying to block because I was like, yep, I deserve this, but don't really want to be punched in the face. But
No,
it was, but she,
I
but
wouldn't want to be either.
yeah,
Not a good idea.
and so I was letting her obviously get her rage out on me, and just blocking the punches and just trying. Yeah, and she was saying a lot of hurtful things because she was hurt. So basically, two
Mm,
triggered people were triggering each other even more. So once, she's so angry, she tore the phone out of the wall and left. Once she had left, I plugged the phone back in after going to another friend's house and rung from their phone, and I called the police on myself. I went, in my swirling suicidal ideation, I thought, I know who shoots and kills people, the police. And I know that they've historically shot and killed Maori before, right or
yeah.
wrong. And I thought, I'm a Maori, this should be easy. And I was in that crazy whirlpool of suicidal ideation. I thought I deserve a very violent death. And I know that the police had, not long before, had shot and killed a Maori male who had a golf club. And I thought, I've got a meat cleaver and a soup ladle dressed up with a tea towel. This should be easy. Plus, I was wearing some of my military regalia from my theatre show just to really heighten it. So I really wanted the police to know I was crazy, and I really wanted them to shoot me dead. So they did shoot me in the end, close range in the chest and with a Glock 9mm bullet. And I'm more than lucky to be alive. I am extremely blessed to be alive. By all the
Well, we're
medical report,
extremely blessed to have you.
yeah, by all the medical reports, I was almost dead. So
Where did that lead you? Where did you wake up after being shot? Because clinically, you should have been dead.
yeah, I after emergency surgery, they cut my guts wide open, cracked my ribs, and the bullet had pierced and grazed the spleen, my bowels, but they couldn't find it. The bullet was stuck hidden, which eventually they found. And after a second surgery, but not during the surgery, they found it tucked behind my lung. And so
You're
when I
so
woke up,
lucky that it didn't pierce your lung.
yeah, I'm very lucky, very lucky, so close. And so when I woke up with all this immense trauma and pain, first thing I thought about was, I hope my dad doesn't find out. And I had no idea that
Inner child.
totally hurt, and a child going to get spanked and
Yeah.
smacked for being
Hmm.
stupid and naughty and bad.
Mm.
And I had no idea. It was all over social media. It was in the media. I didn't realize that the police had, or not the police, but the news, the media, had turned up just after I got shot, and they filmed me lying on the ground, in the middle of the street. So yeah, there was no more hiding anymore that Rob had undiagnosed depression, which was unresolved trauma.
This is the incredible thing, Rob, is we go through life thinking that we're okay, and we're conditioned from childhood to not show the hurt in a child or to be quiet and not talk about things.
Yeah.
And eventually you get to that stage, many of us, where you don't understand why you're doing these certain things. You don't
Mhm.
understand why you don't have the courage to end a relationship that's not healthy for you. You think of different ways of stopping people from being connected to you. And in the course of time, you also connect with people who have also been hurt, because that seems to be what happens through those sort of depressive relationships. And of course, naturally, you trigger each other off. And that's all led towards where you were, and feeling as if you were a really bad person, which of course, Rob, you're one of the nicest guys I have ever met. So,
Um,
and one of the most generous. The interesting part that I always find in these situations is how you have this extreme growth when you start to come around and awaken to your why of the condition that you found yourself in and where you're going to lead to. How did you recover from that trauma of being shot, let alone a broken relationship that was obviously pretty violent as well, and
Uh,
move into actually healing?
the relationship wasn't physically violent. We did yell
Mentally, I
occasionally.
meant.
Yeah, it was
Mm.
just, it was mentally violent, and it was on and off, and yeah. So yeah, just making that clear that we're both in that
No, no,
storm.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so because I'm an actor writer, I was in the hospital just writing down short stories and trying to figure out why I was like this, what happened to me, and I was just and my friend who's a poet said try and write poetry as well. So I was just choosing all forms of writing outlets because my guts are quite cut wide open. I'm in the hospital with tubes sticking out of me, and yeah, I had police in my room who eventually were taken out after a court case, so I could actually heal without being watched over. So you know, the environments were extreme, and the healing was ongoing through my pain, the agony of
Mm.
the trauma from my body being hurt and slit and cut open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I had to be present where I'd never been that present in my life. And so the writings eventually uh, were going to become shop bro, but thanks to my friends in the arts and entertainment industry, they helped workshop these ideas that I put onto paper, and it was great because I didn't know how to say it. So it was just a lot of ramblings, but at least I was attempting it, and people around me had a lot of compassion for me and a lot of time.
Well, I'm not surprised. You're worthwhile spending time on. And they were also uh, very creative as well. They were people of knowledge and understanding because that was actually their métier. That's what they did in the acting and writing creative industry. Tell us how they joined force and helped you raise up the ability to turn this into shot bro.
Well, um, they looked at the writings, early writings, and my friend Jenny Hecker, who ran a Pacific Island Maori writing workshop, um, invited me in with other writers, and everyone was at a new stage, and it was scary for everybody. People telling different stories or their own stories differently. And so later on, with another workshop, my friend Victor Rogers, who's an amazing playwright writer, he helped me unpack it in the workshop, and we got 5 other actors to stand up my words, so I could look on the outside to hear whereabouts it was resonating, or if it made sense or when it didn't. So when you're
Yeah,
presenting your work to invited guests publicly, I had a lot of aroha and support around me. And my friend, who's the writer, Victor Rogers, said, "You know what? I've read your script, and I feel like you're hiding." And I went, "Oh my God, you're right. You've got me. I am hiding. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it directly. You snapped me real good." He goes, "Oh no, no, I'm just." He goes, because he's a skilled writer, and his job is to analyze
yeah,
what the writer is trying to say. And obviously, the writer had a lot of blockage, who was me, and he was very, very comforting, and just telling me the facts. Like, and he goes, "You know what? I told him what I'm telling you now, Susan. I told him privately before all the other actors turned up to to read the work." And he said, "Rob, why don't you tell the actors some of what you told them, what you told me?" And then once I told them, it gave the actors who are coming in like a real sense of why and where. And
yeah,
when the audience are about to arrive, he said, "You know what, Rob? Up to you. You don't have to. Before the actors read your work out, do you want to tell them what you've told me and the actors?" And I went, "Oh shit, I'm not sure about that." And yes, up to you. But when the audience did come, I did tell them a bit of context and
yeah,
what it did, because the work wasn't clear, it gave the work a bit more clarity. But without me telling them, it was sort of a bit ambiguous, what I was trying to say at that point in time.
How was it? Explain ambiguous to us. What were you
It,
doing there? Were you avoiding things?
yeah, and the writing wasn't clear. Well, I mean, the writing was clear, but it was just the ideas, because I was trying to let out my hurt, and I was trying to let
Yeah.
out, and it was so zigzaggy, but it sort of fizzled out at the end, so there was no resolution or no clarity. But people who had heard about me being shot, who watched it, their feedback was, I liked you speaking at the beginning and telling us. And it was sort of like, we liked the humour, but it didn't mean anything. Are you there?
Well, I tell you what, it's watching you on the stage and seeing how you start your story, which is an incredible story. And there you are standing larger than life, and you, this big, strong man. And gee, you must work out a lot to do that show, Rob.
Uh,
You look quite magnificent up there on stage, and then you come in with this big man speak, and you there and you do the haka, and you come out with this story of your your depression, the anger. I mean, you puff up huge as anything, like a giant when you've got the anger, and then just suddenly you drop down and you become this little boy, and that's what you see. And then after that, and I watched all the people in the audience leaning forward, watching you with this incredible acting that you have, that you can share with everyone. And I've watched many transformational or empowerment talks. Yours is one of the best I've ever seen, with the
oh,
way
wow.
you present it. And I've seen them all over the world. So I'm letting you know that when I spoke to Wayne at the beginning of the year, I said, wow, this guy's powerful. He has got such a fabulous message. Even though it's a painful message, the pain comes out, the anger comes out, and then at the end, the forgiveness and
Yeah,
the love and the aroha.
yeah. Oh, thank you for your very kind words, Susan. I'm very,
It,
very, very
I
grateful.
really mean them.
Yeah,
Explain aroha to people, because aroha is a very big part of Shot Pro.
yeah. Aroha is the Maori word for love, but aro means the presence, and ha is the breath, the presence of the divine breath, and it also means compassion, and that's infused and imbued in into the shop bro experience, and it's imbued into me because I've had to learn how to receive aroha more so I can grow emotionally and spiritually and mentally. So that's every from the
Well,
moment people walk in, I meet I meet and greet them and introduce myself before they even turn up to the place where it's going to be presented.
well, you did that to me when I first met you, and I love hugging people, even if they're strangers, especially if I feel they need a hug. And I
Yeah,
turned around, I arrived there with Wayne, and I pushed his wheelchair forward. Well, he doesn't like me doing that. He does it himself most of the time. So if he's going to
yeah,
listen to this, he's going to say, "No, Susan, I did things myself." But as we got there, you just came up and gave me a big bear hug, and I felt the light. And I
oh,
think we recognize people like ourselves very
yeah,
quickly, who've possibly been through sadness or depression or mental or physical abuse, any of those sort of things. There's a recognition and a feeling of warmth. And of course, you were outside greeting all the people coming in. When I saw you on stage and watched people leaning forward, I watched an audience of mainly men, big, grown up men who were still broken, watching your story and resonating with it.
Yeah.
Rob, you're doing such an incredible story, all work with your story all over the world. And I watched grown men and some women, but mainly grown men, break down and cry. And
Yeah.
you, after that, taking time after your show, and it must deplete you quite a lot because there's a lot of action in it.
Yeah.
Walking around amongst everybody, sitting down, drinking tea and coffee, and eating sandwiches with them. Explain what you do afterwards in the Maori tradition after one of your shows.
So after the show, we have we call it a wānanga, but it's just to share your thoughts and ideas and your feelings. So that's a forum, is another word. And so, because people, after I open it up safely about it's okay to talk, people feel compelled to speak and share stuff that perhaps they've only shared with their partner and close friends, or perhaps they've never shared, because I
Mm.
create that safe space. And then afterwards, it's tradition in Māori culture to eat food and have cups of tea, or just to ground yourself. We call it
Yes.
to whakanoa, to ground, and that makes people feel even more safe, and it continues the process of conversation, safe, positive conversation. And a friend of mine turned up for the first time and said, after experiencing Shot Bro, they said it's like we arrive as strangers and we leave as family. And I really
And
loved
that's so
hearing that.
true.
I loved hearing that.
Yeah, well, it's so true. I mean, you and I are family. You're my brother.
Yeah, damn straight. You're my sister.
And yeah. and and there's this warmth, and we watch and we follow each other on social media, but we also
Yeah.
continue to have a lot to do with each other personally as well. Rob, let us know more about your background in acting. Tell us about some of the films that you've been in as well, because not only have you got Shot Bro, which is it's been birthed from your rebirth
Yeah.
into your powerhouse and your passion. Tell us what you were doing before and which films you've actually been in, because that's also a real achievement for a Maori person as well.
Um, I was inspired by Māori actors like Cliff Curtis, who's very international, Te
Mhm.
Muera Morrison. Those are my Māori male role models. And I thought, watch them on screen and watch Cliff Curtis on stage as well when I was learning at drama school. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that was possible. And because they were in the Pākehā world, in the white world, I was like, look at these Māori guys just being as cool as these white people. and and I was like, wow. I was like, look at me, this young Māori boy. Who do I think I can be? I'm nothing. But I was inspired by those guys, Te Muera Morrison, Cliff Curtis. And then when I did a, a theatre study in Whangarei, I just went out into the world and started watching amazing theatre, and just went, wow, these people are storytellers, and I'm a storyteller, and I was just looking for an outlet that I could utilize all my crazy thoughts and emotions and be paid.
Well, that was a good way to go for it. Where did you study your acting, Rob?
Oh, at a not so prestigious drama school at Whangarei. It was called Northland Polytech at the time, but it's called North Tech now. They tried to style it up, North Tech. So I studied there. When I went to Wellington, I
Oh.
studies. I went to Wellington. I moved there because of a girlfriend who was going to university there. And I went to Wellington. I thought I'd move to Hollywood because there was a theatre on every corner. I literally, coming from small town Whangarei, and went to Wellington and thought, wow, this must be what Hollywood is like. And I
Well, you
was
soon
like,
found out what Hollywood was like when you really became
oh,
quite
well,
an international actor.
I haven't been there, no. Not that keen to be there, but I
You're getting
suppose
there.
I suppose it sort of opened my eyes to the arts and entertainment even more. Then I saw a lot of New Zealand actors transition from theatre to film, theatre to television. But I was mainly
Mm.
theatre, and I only dabbled. I dabbled a little bit in TV and a little bit in film. And so I think the first feature film I did, which had a small role on, they flew me to Holland. It was a Dutch film, which was actually
Yeah.
set in New Zealand called Bride Flight. And so they were casting overseas in New Zealand, and I was doing a show called Strange Resting Places, which I talked about earlier. And they
Yes.
said, "Can you audition?" Then they said, "Yeah." "Can you audition again? This time the director's flying in from Holland." I went, "Oh yeah, sounds promising." And so I did a reading for him in his hotel. That was kind of Hollywood in Auckland, but he flew into Auckland Airport, where it is hotel in the lobby, and him and his assistant. "Can you read the lines?" I read the lines, and afterwards he goes, "We'll see you in Holland. Thank you very much." And I was like, "What?" So that was my little taste of at that time. I was like, "Wow!" So I was flown to Holland, rehearsed in Amsterdam, and then we filmed in Luxembourg, which is on the border of
Yeah.
Germany and France. So
Hmm.
they recreated us because the film's mainly set in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but they recreated this 1950s New Zealand house at a vineyard in Luxembourg. So basically, I was pretending I was in New Zealand, playing a Maori winemaker. And I was like, "This is surreal." They flew me all the way from my homeland to make it look like my homeland, and build a house from scratch, a 1950s house, authentic, and all my clothes were like of the time, and it was a great time. I met wonderful people, and the the,
Yeah.
direct, the director Ben Sombergart, he's an Academy Award nominee, lovely man.
Mm.
The actors were lovely to me. What I really enjoyed was over there was everybody spoke in Dutch or French. In German, they would stop at the dinner table and go, "Is it too much for you, Rob?" And I went, "No, I love hearing you speak your native language. Keep going." I said, "If you
Oh,
really
you
want
have
me,
such respect for
yeah,
people. You do.
yeah." I said, "If you really want me to know something, ask me in English because I can't speak French or German or Dutch."
As long as the food was good, that's all that
Oh,
mattered.
can I tell you the funny thing about? I'll tell you a little thing about the food. As just being on my minimal experience of being on film sets or television set in New Zealand, you
Yeah.
have one course. But I didn't realize that was like very European. They had multiple courses. So the first course at lunch on set, beautifully catered for. I thought, this is it. This is all I get to eat. So I ate as much as I could, and then there was a second course, and then there was a third course, and there was dessert. And I was like, wow, this country bumpkin Maori boy over in Luxembourg didn't really know what he was doing. But I learned pretty quickly, don't eat everything all at once in the first sitting, Rob. This is very European way of dining.
Yeah, easy. A lot of conversation, hours and hours at the table, and watch your waistline when you're an actor. We can't have that, Rob. And
Oh, too late now, too late. It's all gone. But but
I love
yeah,
it.
but it's just those are all little gems that I remembered. And but also, I had a lot of self doubt, and my voice would speak to me, and I go, "Oh, you don't." Even on the first day of set, on the first day of filming, official first day of filming, my voice was so. I was in a mini panic attack because I thought, "Oh no, the director's here, the lead actors are here, I'm here, and the crew are here. They're going to see that I'm a fraud. Everyone's going to see that I'm a fraud."
Oh, Rob.
So this is way back in the day, and I was so nervous. They're going to see that I tricked them to giving me the role. So I had
Bless you.
so I had that negative voice way back then, and
Yeah,
yeah.
you could laugh about it now, but it
Oh
must have
yeah.
been pretty debilitating and not fun to live with that inner critic that kept on telling you that you weren't worth very much.
Yeah.
When in the meantime, everybody else around you thinks, "Oh, this is a great guy. He's got a fantastic personality. He's a really potential, incredible actor." And of course, you are now, and you've gone through all of that. Tell us about Tamatu, the movie.
Oh, oh yeah. Tamatu is a beautiful short film. Means the Sons of War. 2 is actually Tu Mātauenga, who is the god of war, so Sons of War, which was directed and written by Taika Waititi, who's done a few things now. Bit of Hollywood
Yeah,
credentials flowing from
yeah, a little bit
Taika.
of a posh guy. You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
say his
no,
name.
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's great. I'm so proud of him. As his friend,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so proud of him and how he's just gone on to fulfill his dream. So international. So Taika was the writer director, and it was based on the Maori battalion in World War II Italy, which I've got a lot of whakapapa and genealogical family tree connections through my great
Mm-hmm.
uncles, and so did all the boys. Or my friends who were the co-actors. So basically, we were representing our ancestors on screen, and it was such a privilege. And Taika is, he's gifted, but it's just his easefulness that he would direct you, and we just felt like we're good friends, making something very precious with a lot of love. And so, yeah, just that short film, it holds a lot in my heart and all of our hearts. We're still close friends to this day. All those guys, all of us who were in that short film.
It was brilliant. It was you were camped in an Italian ruins where
Yeah,
you were waiting for the night to fall, and then you distract yourself with jokes.
yeah,
I
and
just yeah.
Taika, very clever, very genius. There was no dialogue. It was all gestures, facial gestures, physical gestures. So that's fun and a little bit hard to do, to convey all these messages with no dialogue.
Yeah,
So
well, you also really humble because it won international acclaim and invited to over 40 international festivals and won many awards,
yep, you
um,
can thank Taika for
including
that.
honorable, yeah, including because I'm letting people know this because you are such a humble man, including honorable mentions at Sundance in Berlin. So,
Yeah,
everyone, you must know that this wonderful Rob, friend of mine, is one of the most humble men I know. He has such international acclaim. Tell us about Lord of the Rings and the
uh,
Fellowship of the Ring. Come on, tell
uh,
us.
yeah. Well, I wasn't in the film. I was just a production runner for Weta Digital,
You
and
were
so
just
yeah, just
okay.
production.
You were just that, but it happens to be quite an important role, it doesn't it?
Look, it's
Come
just,
on. Okay.
it's all right, it's all right. But what it is, I'm just a link man. So basically, I got to experience all the film sets around Wellington, and
Yeah,
I was working for Weta Digital, so I was just basically just the just the runner, and I
just
got
a
to.
runner.
And the cool thing is, I would turn up to these lavish, extravagant sets and be able to sit near and watch Peter Jackson do his work in the way he would just effortlessly and easily direct his lead New Zealand actors, his lead Hollywood actors, international stars. And I went, what a nice guy. What a lovely, easeful guy. And, then he'd come into our offices at Weta Digital and be wearing shorts, bare feet, and a shirt or a t-shirt, and just go, this guy is so down to earth. This guy is ridiculously down to earth, and
So much so he was being grounded with no shoes.
yeah, he was literally feeling the earth through his feet, and
Oh,
he was part Hobbit at that time, and he may be channeling all
did
that.
he have hairy feet?
Didn't look that closely. Didn't look that closely.
Good.
He's the boss. Don't stay too long at
Don't
the
look at
boss's
his
feet.
feet.
Keep eye
No,
contact.
don't do that.
Keep,
Not
keep
good.
eye
Not a good
contact.
idea.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So yeah. So I was I was in awe. So I was like getting a master class on how to be on an international film set with Peter. And not that I'm
Yeah.
a friend, not that I'm a friend of his. I was just one of the thousands of employees that he had. But so it was
Um,
just, but once again, it was just his down to earth nature that I was really blown away by for such a amazing filmmaker. And then and later on,
how many? Yeah.
yes, no, carry on, no.
Yeah. How many films have you been involved in that you've acted in?
Oh, just a few, just a few. Just little ones, just tiny
How
little
about
ones.
12? or more?
Oh, just tiny little ones and a lot
I've
of
been
short films.
counting.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, yeah, I hear you. It's more about the filmmakers themselves and how they've progressed.
Mm,
So, and some of them are my friends. So,
yeah,
I'm incredibly proud of them because I know the extreme lows as well as the highs, the extreme lows you go through to get to that point. So, and I think I may have told you this, but a year ago, I'm on a new television series, an action Maori fantasy called The Deadlands, which gets released
yeah.
by AMC, the creators of The Walking Dead, in January next year. And I got,
Says Rob very casually, the creators of The Walking Dead. I love you,
yeah,
Rob.
well, I just think it's great that they combined their money and their superpowers with a small New Zealand operation to make it international.
Yeah,
and I got a small role. They gave me a small role after I auditioned, and the good thing and the amazing thing was I got to be on set with my friend who was in Tamatu, who was now the lead actor, and his name is Tikohe Tuhaka. Amazing. I mean,
hmm,
he's one of my closest friends, of my real friends,
yeah,
in the entertainment industry, and I was just so proud to see how much he had learnt of all the television, the theatre, the film that he'd been doing. And I'd been out of the business for a while because I'm in the suicide prevention arena. And I come back and I
yeah,
say, oh my God, the caliber is Hollywood level, and I'm getting a masterclass by someone who's really generous, who's my best friend, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. So it was really fun because we're in authentic, wow, stylized Maori clothing, which is supposed to be pre-European, but it's actually an alternate universe. But I still
that's very interesting. Alternate universe.
and that
That sounds
wow,
so
yeah.
interesting.
Yes, well, that's right. There's the alternate universe internally as well. Jeez. Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
they're right.
Yeah.
Where did you lead on that? Did they start to see your acting talents as someone they wanted on the set more and more, or uh,
Um,
what happened there?
I think I must have irritated them enough to give me more days on set. Nah. Um, No, I was just in between. I took the role because they said it was only for a limited amount of days filming because I was still doing
Mm,
shop bro confessions of a depressed bullet around the country. And I said, that's cool. I'm doing this suicide prevention work, as you know. But then the days started to multiply and accumulate. They gave me more days on set. And it's actually put me in a bit of a stressful predicament because I'm only one tiny cog in a massive entertainment machine and that film
yeah,
set. They were like, well, we can't give you days off because we're really needing to film on these days. Christmas is upon us in a month. And I was like, wow,
yeah,
I only had 7 days. Now it's turned into 22 days. It was irritating me because I was clashing with my suicide prevention work. And
yeah,
so luckily somebody pulled out last minute. So I was able to do this day on set, which they really wanted me. And by the way, I was waiting around on set 4 hours doing nothing, which is luxurious if you've got nothing else to do, but irritating
mm,
when you're being asked to go around the country and try and save people's lives by telling your story.
yeah.
So
And
luckily,
not just the country, around you, Australia and other places as well. So I can understand there. Where did you work from that? What happened?
a lot of negotiation with agents, executive producers, and luckily somebody pulled out last minute. I mean, for one of my showings, so I had that 1 day leeway. So as soon as I finished the filming on a beautiful secluded beach, I doing nothing while the lead actor was working his butt off, having massive fight scenes. They let me go, and I caught the flight that night, so I could be in Palmerston North, Royal New Zealand Air Force Base, the next morning to present my story with two presentations. And the Air Force really embraced it. And I sat in a forum on a panel with these men who were therapists, men and women who were officers and therapists. So it was great. So in the forum, the Air Force men and women could ask me questions directly or ask their therapist directly about ways to engage friends and family with mental health, or what are the systems and protocols they're going to apply for the Air Force base. So, and then a few days later, I'm back on a film set.
And
Dressed.
re-recording with me as well, my dearest friend. I'm so appreciative of your time. You have no idea,
Oh, I'm appreciative.
really.
I'm appreciative of everything you do, Susan. You put a lot of love and light out into the world, and it is good. It is good to meet genuine hearts and souls like yourself and Wayne and Warren Brown, who was at the grassroots mental health
Yes,
awareness weekend, which he created from a suicide bereavement group. So, when you meet
yeah.
genuine hearts and souls like this, who are genuinely wanting to help others, it just reinvigorates my wairua, my spirit, and my mind. So I'm grateful
Well,
to meet
the
you.
fact is, thank you so much, Rob. And the fact that we met each other, it's never ever by chance. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a great believer in that. And from the minute I met you at your show at the beginning of the year, I have more and more clients coming towards me who have been through the depths of depression. And I often think of you and Shot Bro and the empowerment you give there, which has consequently given me empowerment in my coaching and healing sessions. So I'm very grateful for that. Really, I am. Rob, there's something that interests me, and I know the audience. When you very humbly speak about, oh, I happened to be at the Air Force and I was with therapists, and there are people there who have listened to me. You have become a powerhouse of knowledge of depression and suicide to the extent that you have people, top guys from the Air Force, and obviously when people are flying, they go through trauma or they've been in a war somewhere. What you do for people internationally is massive, and I appreciate your input for that. Not only that, Rob, we haven't discussed how you go into high security prisons. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Well, I'm very grateful that I've been invited to a few prisons to tell my story, um, because my philosophy is the light can dissolve the dark or the hurt, and those the
Mm,
places are full of hurt men. Who So I say this to everybody: inside a hurt man, inside an angry man and angry woman, are hurt little kids. So my
yeah.
hurt little kid, even though I don't know what their trauma is, knows their hurt little kid. And so, I'm giving out these hearts in a prison, and not many people are taking them, but the ones who do, they're like, oh, yeah, I'll give you that. Once I get them laughing, then I can get the medicine in, which is the truth and the tools, the coping mechanisms. So, yeah, sometimes it's quite nerve-wracking to be in a maximum security prison, therapy units. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, my intentions are to save a life. So you can't change the past. They can't change who hurt them or who they hurt. But what we can do collectively is change the present if we're willing. And some of those men are willing. Obviously, some are not. But the main thing is you can't unsee what I showed them. You can't unsee it. And I showed them love and compassion within the hurt.
This is using inner child therapy, which I work with myself,
Yeah.
and your knowledge of that from your self healing and everything as well is so incredible. And the use of understanding where you give that love to them, they're not used to somebody taking time out to go and speak to them, to do the Shot Bro show, and to have the courage to go into, well, I mean, you've got great big security guards and things standing around there when you do that,
Um,
and and
yeah.
and you're brave. You brave from from being a person who has been shot, who has faced adversity. You have this warrior instinct within you to be able to face people, to be able to give them the courage to heal.
Yeah.
I see you as a massive healer.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. I'm still learning. I'm like,
I'm
just
Mr. Humble again.
oh no, honestly, I'm still learning, and it's great. And as I'm reaching people, I'm learning. So as I'm sharing, I'm learning. So I'm upgrading in person. So everybody's story, even though they may not be able to articulate it clearly, they've got tools in their story that they don't know. So it's just illuminating
Mm.
those tools. And so as they're sharing, I'm like, oh, I'm going to use some of those tools. I've never heard of that before. And of course, I run into therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and I'm having big talks with Maori spiritual leaders, and utilizing the spiritual healing side, because in the Maori world, it's not just a mental sickness; it's a spiritual sickness, and it's realigning your spiritual with your mental. So I'm utilizing those as well.
I'm very fortunate to understand this because I've had, well, it's nearly 12 months mentorship through somebody from New Zealand. I won't use her name right now because she hasn't given me permission. However, I've been working in the field of energetics and healing, and I appreciate so much the Maori way of showing aroha in healing, and the ability to uplift people through that love and compassion that you have, Rob. It's so it's heartwarming.
That's good. That's what we want to. We want people to feel that aroha, and it's a vibration. So it's a
Yeah.
vibration which is in each and every one of us. So te reo Māori, the Māori language, rangatira up here in Whangarei said, te reo Māori, the Māori language wasn't just there to communicate with each other; it was there to use the vibration of the language to help heal yourself.
Yes.
So without,
And you can feel that when you with the Maori people or in New Zealand, or one of the islands, there's this. It's very spiritual.
yes. And a lot of indigenous cultures have that similar vibration, and not just indigenous.
Yes.
It's not exclusive, but when they've got more platforms to initiate that. Indigenous cultures do,
Yes.
to initiate those places, safe spaces to just to be yourself, to be your to be who you are.
Rob, where did you grow up? So that people know that about your background, because you have had a multicultural experience, haven't you?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Because my dad was an ex-Vietnam veteran. He was in the army for 17 to 18 years. So we were posted wherever the army posted my father. So I grew up in Singapore. I went to a military school. It was pretty much like the United Nations of schools. So
Hmm.
multiple ethnicities and religions. And I just thought that was normal. So I went to kindergarten and primary school there, and then eventually we came back to Aotearoa, New Zealand to live, because I thought Singapore was my home. Um, so two things: I got a culture shock and a temperature shock when the army based us in the bottom of or near the bottom of the South Island, called a place called Mosgiel, which is a dot
Yeah.
in the landscape, and I was the blackest person there because and people thought I was a black Chinese, and so it was the first time, and so I was like, well, we've never seen a black Chinese before. I went, I'm not a black Chinese, and I looked in the mirror and I went, oh, I look like one though. Um,
Rob.
but the thing was, it was the first time I ever experienced racism and racial discrimination because of my skin color.
That must
Because
have
in
been tough.
It was tough, but because at Singapore was international forces school, we're multiple colors, and it was just normal.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a shock to be talked about my skin color, and I was inferior, and I was like, "What? I thought we were just kids. what's this about my skin? I'd never had skin color be mentioned before in my life until that
Yeah,
time.
you
So
know,
it was like a
I
shock to
can
the
understand
system.
that must have been a real shock to your system. I
It
taught
was.
at international schools, and what I loved about kids was they see no color. So for
Yeah.
you to now suddenly be exposed to that must have been soul destroying.
It was strange and a bit scary, and especially when it turned into violence and bullying, and you're like, oh
Mm.
shit, my skin color is upsetting you. What the hell? But at the same time, I had some real good friends there who were like stuck
Yeah,
by me. They stuck by me, and I was really grateful. But as a kid, because of the army and moving us around, I'd always have to go to new schools, so I'd have to reinvent myself. So just when I'm making new friends, where the army sent my dad to another place in New Zealand. So basically, I was using a lot of humour to get my way into the social circles, and I was using sport to help myself, um, yeah, engage in the cool kids crowd because I didn't want to be the left out kid.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so
I I hear you with that. And tell us about the Nutters Club, because obviously you learned humor as a you you learned humor as a child, and you were good at it. You were invited to do some shows there.
haven't done shows for the Nutters Club, but
Right.
during my court cases with the Nutters, my court cases, sorry, I'll slow down.
Yeah,
Um, the Nutters Club, which is a 2 hour radio talk back with Mike King,
yeah,
who was the New Zealander of the Year last year for his help with suicide prevention and mental health initiatives. He was the host with a psychologist who was David Kodaya, and they invited me to be on the Nutters Club. So it was 2 hour radio show, and it was 30 minutes of television for Maori television. And before I did the show, Mike King and his mate Boris Sogratov, who's a Maori Bulgarian, um, they shared their story with me, and it was so generous and open. I was so in awe of these men, these positive Maori males sharing their mental health stories with me, and I left there feeling really good. But when I got home, I had my inner critic say, "Yeah, that was awesome, but it's a trick. Nobody speaks
uh,
like that ever. That was just a trick." And I went, "Was it? They seem pretty genuine." Just talking to myself. And the
yeah.
voice goes, "It's a trick. Don't fall for it." And so eventually, 6 years later, when I was ready to do Shop Pro, I was thinking, oh, this is what those guys were doing for me and thousands of New Zealanders. They were being open and generous from the heart.
And you learned from them. It's amazing how we learn from others. Like you say, you even learn from the high security prisoners as well with their
Yeah,
stories, and
yeah,
how it gives you the growth. And they think that you're helping them, but in the meantime, it's a mutual sort of mirror effect, which creates this love, this aroha that you have. Was the Maori culture important to you as a teenager because you were moving around so much?
it was. I just knew I was a Maori. They weren't speaking Te Reo Māori, the language, much on my dad's side, but when we went to my mum's side, who's from Lake Waikaremoana, she's Tūhoe, her whānau spoke a lot of Māori around my sister and
Hmm.
I, and yeah, took a while to get used to because we weren't used to it, and it was beautiful. It was just the easefulness of our uncles and aunties,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so just knowing that I was Māori, and then I went to a boarding school, which Māori culture was a huge part of, which was St. Stephen's, which was shut down eventually. But when I went there, Māori culture was big, and so you're really utilising that to access your gods, access
yes.
your language and your stories from your ancestors. So that's a big part of it. That's a big part of growing up.
I think in any culture we've lost the ability of understanding our elders and genealogy, and it's tragic because when you lose that, you lose the many generations that you've actually come from, and the ability to be able to understand your background. And what I feel as well is if you don't know that, you can't understand where you when you become depressed, or why. And with that heritage and knowledge, when you start to discover it, like you say, the Maori culture was very important to you. I believe internationally we should all be very interested in our cultures, and we have the understanding then of why we get depressed, or what was the outcome of certain upbringing. Did you suffer much depression at school?
In hindsight, I can look back and go, yeah, I was up and down. I was up and down. You know, I had a lot of big emotions and a lot of big crazy thoughts. And you know, people
Hmm.
go, oh, it's just growing pains, it's just growing up. But yeah, I remember having suicidal ideation at age of 10 at one point, and
Well,
scaring my mother.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, when you go from you're traveling around, you're going from school to school, you've got to reinvent yourself. You live on humor, which many of us who have been through adversity use humor as a shield, and consequently end up um, in the creative world as artists and actors and things like that. And I can see where you're coming from when you say you frightened your mother, but understanding as well, you go from one place where you don't even understand skin color, and you get to another place and you get told that you're different, and then suddenly you get this depression hitting you, with also the abuse that you didn't really acknowledge because you felt you couldn't do this.
Yeah,
Um, how did you how did you overcome that? Did you see a therapist or
yep,
anything because of this?
yes, I did.
You did.
So when I was healing up at my dad's house, which I'm at now, based here at the family homestead, is that I went and saw a therapist, and it was over 2 years on and off. And it was just, I make a joke about it in shop, bro. I said the good thing about seeing a therapist is that we're not related, and people laugh because they understand, and they said we're
They
not
do. That's
related.
why I'm having a laugh.
Yeah, I get the chuckles all around the country. Even I was in Australia, they were laughing. They were like, they're laughing and nodding. Yeah, and it was just great to talk about my emotional past, and I could cry, but they wouldn't be emotional. They were just dealing with the facts, and sometimes they'd
Yeah.
repeat stuff. They repeat stuff to me, or he would repeat something to me that I said, and I couldn't remember saying it in the session because I was so emotional. And I said, I never said that, and he was like, you repeated it like 4 times. So it was really
Wow.
great to hear somebody say, and you go, but I don't know why I said that. And then later on, you go, oh, that's why. Oh, so just having a safe place to unpack it, you know, and that's what ShopRo
Yeah.
does. I've created a safe space for people to unpack for that time they're there, and they can find and take time to heal whenever they're ready after ShopRo. But all it is having an opportunity to have a safe space. And I was grateful to the therapist, Dr. John Hall, who was American, ironically enough, here in the far north of Whangarei. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Hmm.
it's been good having external people, professionals.
Yeah. Your show, Shot Bro, is about, quintessentially, it's about spirituality. Where do you fit spirituality?
Uh, I think for it's all combined. So your physical, your mental, your spiritual, and your family, they're entwined. They're entwined. And
Hmm.
if I'm not mentally well, then I look at my spiritual side. I go, oh, why haven't I done there? And vice versa. And spirituality is having access, free access to your God or gods and to your
Mm.
ancestors you can connect to call upon, to to bring their knowledge and their aroha to change the vibration of your current situation. So that is chanting, whether it's motiatia, which is a form of song and chant, or the karakia, which is a form of prayer, and just to kōrero, to speak to your ancestors and having direct access. So
I hear you.
spirituality is a huge part of how I operate. And even though uh, I suppose I'm imbuing it with so much love and compassion and spirit on Wairua. I had a 50-year-old Kiwi lady come up to me after Shopper, and she said to me, "Did you put a lot of spirit into this show?" And I smiled and I went, "Yes, I did." And she goes, "I knew it because I could feel it." And I was like, "I'm very glad." I said, "I'm very glad you felt compelled to come and tell me that. Thank you so much." And I was like, "Because I have.
Bless.
I love it." She goes, "I
Well, you
felt it."
do.
Yeah.
You do, because when I've watched your show, there was this vibration of energy and this light. And because I can see auras, it was like this vibration of purple and blue, and it was like a thunderbolt around you. And that is what you put out to everyone, even when you walk into a room, Rob. What is love to you?
Oh, aroha. I think, yeah, aroha, the presence of the divine breath. It means to love yourself, to know that you're worth it. Love is unconditional love. It's unconditional aroha and compassion, and it's for yourself as well, not just for others. And I've been
Yes,
learning that the more aroha I have for myself, the more compassion I have for others as well. So it's learning
it's
how to
yeah,
sit.
it's so true. I mean, that's self-love. That's self-love. To be able to love yourself first enough to love everyone else.
Absolutely. And my cousin Lynn, she's a healer on my Tuhoi side from Lake Waikaremoana, and she says,
Mm.
if you need a break and you're in a crowded room, Rob, just close your eyes, take deep breaths, and just sit inside your heart. Just sit in there. Sit in there. And I thought it was beautiful, but a little voice from my past popped up and went, "Well, times have changed. Before you hated sitting in your heart because you thought you were worthless. But now I smiled. I went, yeah, I can sit in there. So I do feel good in there." And it's just trying to share that with other people, you know, with the shop bro experience, if they can't see me physically and experience what that is, or online, how to permeate that to energize other people, sorry, with that feeling. So, yeah, and it's an ongoing
That
learning.
love.
Yeah, ongoing learning.
Yeah, it is. It's just like that, allowing your heart to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling. And you're allowed to have it because we've been told that we shouldn't do that from childhood, that
Oh,
it's a
100.
vanity thing, self love. And of
Yeah,
course, it's not.
yeah.
It's a
And
healing, it's a total healing process to love yourself.
absolutely. It's just, I can't speak for other cultures, but for the Maori culture and my talking to my friends who are Pacific Islanders, they said, "We know what you mean, Rob, self-love, but we've been taught that selfish because you're supposed to give as a community, you're supposed to
Mm.
give to your
Yeah,
community. You're supposed to do that." And I went, I understand it's ingrained, but we've got to learn how to receive it too. So once you learn how to receive it, you don't want to be bitter giving out
yeah,
of duty. You want to be able to refill the wairua. You'll fill your spirit, that cup, that bowl, and make it never ending. So when you do give, you are receiving as well. So it's a good lesson. And chatting to my Pacific Island brothers and sisters and some of the Maori ones, they have a bit of a chuckle. "We hear you, Rob, but we're told that's selfish." I went, I know. We can still give and learn how to receive.
absolutely. And to you can't give without loving yourself. So the more your word for Shot Bro gets out there, the more people are going to understand it's okay to love yourself first. Rob, can you share with us how people can get in contact with you and how they can ask you to go and do one of your fantastic shows anywhere in the world as well? Because
Yeah.
you're an incredible man. You go everywhere for this message to be spread. Let us know how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you. I only go where I'm invited, so it's beautiful when people invite me because they know there's a need and they're open.
Yeah.
So I've got a Facebook page which is called Shot Bro Confessions of a Depressed Bullet. People can contact me, private message me on there because it goes straight to my email, and my email address, hold and wait for it, all lowercase, and it's called roosterinabahn@gmail.com.
Rob, when you first gave me that email, I had such a chuckle, and I thought, where does roosterinabahn@gmail.com come from? How did you create that? What's that got to do with Shot Bro?
Well, it sort of does, but it doesn't. When I was in hospital recovering, my friend shut down my emails because the media was stalking me, and people were sending some not very nice stuff. So he made a new email address, which is based on our show, Strange Resting Places. Are you there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in Strange Resting Places, set in World War II, 1943, Monte Cassino, Italy, I play Maori soldier, I play the Virgin Mary, I also play two animals. So one of my Academy Award acting roles was a goat and a rooster. So in Italy. So it was an Italian rooster, quite specific acting, different kind of, not a New Zealand rooster. So my good friend Paolo Rotondo made this ambiguous name up, ambiguous to others. So it was a laugh amongst ourselves. He goes, here it is, man. Only your friends that you want to contact you will know this is you. roosterinabahn@gmail.com. And he still laughs that I still have it. He thought I would have changed it to something way more professional. He's like, have you still got that silly name? I was like, you gave it to me.
I think it's a pretty good name for somebody who's in Shot Bro and who's out there crying out with his voice. That's a good one. Do you have a website, Rob?
Not at this point in time. Because things I'm getting a bit overwhelmed, pleasantly so. I've asked to get a new business manager. So my cousin's wife is very skilled, and she's slowly upgrading me. And part of that upgrade is I have to get a website, apparently. so it's coming.
Well, Rob, word of mouth has this huge strength. It's old-fashioned. And through word of mouth, I know that you are out there big time. And anybody who has you as a guest is very fortunate, as am I. And I appreciate it so much. So on that note, I'm actually going to send you the word that you taught me, which is aroha. And much love to you, Rob. And thank you so much for taking time out to do this for me. Come back and re-record, because we had a bit of a disaster with the internet earlier on. So thank you so much, Rob. I do appreciate you, and I love you very much.
Oh, you're most welcome, my friend. Anytime I can help you and reciprocate that aroha, I will, because I totally believe in what you're doing, and the amount of compassion and education you're putting out there. That's inspiring. So you're most welcome anytime, my friend.
Thank you so much, Rob. And I'm going to come to your next show and invite myself up onto the stage. I want to learn how to do that haka.
Yeah. Well, it's only part of the haka, and it's more of a jump than a haka. But you're most welcome. I'd love to have you on stage so you could sit with me on the panel. I would love to.
That would be so cool. Well, Rob, thank you so much. We'll talk about that afterwards. Take care, and much love to you, Rob. Thank you so much.
Kia ora, my friend. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Awaken Your Mind Magic for another week. If anything you've heard today has really impacted you and you want to know more, or you would just like to connect with me, then visit my website, awakenyourmindmagic.com, and reach out for a free one-on-one discovery session with me.
Silver on the outside. Silver on the outside. Gold on the inside. Silver on the outside. Gold on the inside.
Tune in next week where I'll be discussing more tools to unlock your dreams and live a limitless life that you would truly love to live. I'm Kathleen, and this has been Awaken Your Mind Magic.